Empty Epsilon, scenario writing, freighter immersion. All right, so we're going to add some freighters to the scenario. In space, there are freighters out there. There's civilians that might get in the way. So let's add 10 of those. That's what that for loop is for. I'm going to pick up some functions from other scenarios that I've written, like this one that says random transport type, which just picks and creates a freighter at random from the types available, and this function, which selects an item at random out of an array of items. All right, now that I have that, we're going to create a local transport variable, and we will have it be assigned from the result of the random transport type function. Once we have that, we will make the transport position sort of at random on the board. So the x coordinate is going to be from negative 40,000 to positive 40,000. Same with the y coordinate. I think this is the first time we've done random. And we want these transports to be independent. That way they can dock at all the stations. All right, now that we have that, let's test it and see what happens. All right, so once again, start server, development, intro. We will put in a player ship, and there we have it. We have a whole bunch of transport out there, but they're just sitting there doing nothing. Let's give them something to do. In order to do that, the simplest thing is just have them dock with the station. So we're going to make a list of all the stations, put them in a table, and that's what that table insert thing is doing. We are inserting each of these space stations into a table, and we'll just copy this and put it in front of all of those lines that create a space station. Now, this is a function, so we also have to make sure that we close the parentheses, and so we got to put a parentheses at the end of all these things. So the intent here is we're going to make our scenario more believable that we're actually in space by putting a bunch of civilian craft out there. Also, it gives the science officer more than one thing to scan. If you just have enemies out there, it's real obvious that they're enemies. If you have some freighters out there too, then you have to scan them to figure out what's going on. Now that we have the transports in a list, or the stations in a list rather, we're going to order the transport inside our loop to dock with a station that we select at random from our new stations list. Okay, that should be enough to get those transports moving. Let's see if this works. Start development intro will default to normal. Spawn a player ship, and okay. Now in the GM screen, it draws lines telling you where a ship is going, what they intend to do. This particular ship is headed for the station. Its orders are to dock. I'm just going to cheat, drag it over there so that we can see what happens when it docks. See, it's got that reverse line with the perpendicular lines across it to say that it's flying in that direction. All right, it is docked. And it's just going to stay there. That's because it doesn't have any other orders. So what we really need to do is say, once you're docked, I need you to go to another station. So for all the transports, we're going to put them in a list. Let's insert them in the loop into our new transports table. So insert into transports a transport. Now we're going to add a function in our update routine that's going to have a little more logic than some of the other functions that we've done. So the first thing we're going to do is set up a loop so that we go through all the transports in the list. I is going to be the index, ship is going to be the item in the list. In the integer pairs, transports, do, and okay, so we've got the loop set up. Inside the loop, the first thing we'll do is we'll check to see if the ship is still good. So if it's not nil and it's valid, then we can process it. Now, if it's nil or invalid, we want to take it out of the loop. So we're going to do table.remove. A remove is one of those special Lua functions for these special tables based on integers. And we just say, from the transports table, use the current index, which is I want you to remove it. Now, I usually break out of the loop at this point because I never know if I'm going to mess up the order of my loop. So I just break out. I'll get the loop the next time around in the update. So I'm going to set up a local variable docked with station because I want to find out if the ship is docked with a station. I know there's a function that does that. And yeah, I looked it up before I started recording. It's get docked with. So I'm going to copy that, put it over here, and that's the function I'm going to call. Now this function returns the station that you're docked with if you're docked with the station. If you're not, it returns nil. So we'll check. If docked with station is nil, is not equal to nil, that means you're docked. So we're going to perform a function if you're docked. We need to pick a station out of a list, and we don't want it to be bad, so we're going to call our station the target because that's where ultimately we want them to dock. So it has to be not nil, it has to be valid, and we don't want it to be the same station that you're docked with. So if all three of those conditions are met, then we know that we have a valid station for our docking orders. So inside the repeat, this is where we select the target. Would you say target is one of the stations we're going to select at random from the station list. This is one of the functions that we copied over here. See, we've used it twice. Once inside random transport type and now to pick one out of our stations. So now that we have it, we're going to tell the ship to dock at our new target. That should be it. Let us go test it out. Start development intro, start scenario, default to normal, have a player ship, and let's run the simulation. Now you see all those transports or freighters are going to a destination. I don't usually like to look at the jumps because there's some sometimes jump out from under me. So let's take this one, drag it over, and see what happens when he docks up with this station. I'm very tempted to hum the Jeopardy theme, but I'll avoid that. All right, he's getting close. And now that he's docked, he has a different destination. That's what the line means. So it worked.